So I finally made it back home after the Intel 9th generation launch so that we can finally go through what they announced, as well as have a little bit of a conversation regarding some fishy numbers pushed out after the event. On Monday, October 8th, Intel unveiled their new 9th generation CPU family, as well as their high-end desktop refresh, to the world at the event in New York City. We were on site shooting out information live to the site, so if you want to catch that information, go ahead and hit the link down in the description below to dive right in there to see everything that was announced. But we're going to focus on the mainstream segment in this video, as most of our audience are gamers and, well, they're calling it the world's best gaming CPU, period. They focus pretty heavily, well, practically exclusively, on the i9-9900K, which came to no surprise to anyone at this point. An 8-core, 16-thread mainstream monster from the company, marking the first time they've released an 8-core chip to their mainstream Z-Class series. They also mentioned that the new Z390 chipset is a thing, and that it does bring along some new USB 3.1 Gen 2 support, as well as integrated Intel AC wireless technology. But thankfully, all three of the new socket 1151 chips that they announced are fully compatible with all 300 series chipsets, provided you have the proper BIOS. Clock speeds were pretty big this go around, with the i9-9900K topping out at a 5 GHz turbo. But what about the rest of the chips and pricing? The i9-9900K comes with 8 cores and 16 threads with a base clock of 3.6 and a max turbo of 5 GHz, all for a suggested price of $488. Well, in volume pricing per 1,000 at least. Meanwhile, pre-orders on Amazon are listed for $530. A bit of disparity there. The hyper-threading lacking i7-9700K rocks a 3.6 GHz base as well, but only turbos up to 4.9, reserving that 5 GHz for the highest SKU. It comes in at a suggested retail price of $374, but if the offset of the 9900K was added to this, we're looking at, well, $415 plus. Similar to the pricing of the i7-8086K. The i5-9600K brings in the rest of the pack, featuring a straight 6-core design with a slightly higher base of 3.7, but a lower turbo speed of 4.6 GHz, and at a price point suggested by Intel of $262. But if that one got the same offset, we're looking at right around a $300 price point, and that's just really hard for an i5 in my opinion. Now with the individuals out of the way, let's look at what they share. 10 nanometer these are not, but they are 14 nanometer plus. I'd love to hear in the comments section whether this matters to you or not, and why. Now let's jump into something that I know everyone will be happy about. STIM, S-T-I-M, or rather soldered thermal interface material. Thank God. Gone is the toothpaste garbage they've been using since Ivy Bridge days, and even the HEDT parts are going back to solder. While I'd like to applaud them for this, but in all reality it should have just been this way anyway. I mean, remember how beastly Sandy Bridge overclocking was since you didn't have the burden of crap Tim stopping you? But all of that sounds great, well, except for the pricing maybe. I mean, that just depends on what you're willing to spend and how you feel about the pricing. I mean, AMD did launch an 8-core at $500, but they also launched an 8-core at $330 and did it again. So that's something to definitely keep in mind. But what about games? I mean, after all, they did claim that this was the world's best gaming CPU. Now, knowing what we already know about Coffee Lake CPUs, there's really no question that these will be fast. But dear God, did the testing by Principal Technologies miss the goal entirely? For those not familiar at this point, Principal Technologies is a firm that Intel hired, or commissioned rather, to do third-party testing for the new i9-9900K. That sounds great. You know, third-party testing to confirm or disprove claims rather than in-house. We all know whoever's paying the bill is going to get the preferred treatment. One thing I do have to give them credit for is clearly detailing their testing methodology and configuration, because now we know how they tested. Well, not representing the competition in even a fair light. So those results from where I stand need to be tossed in a bin, and it's time for a do-over. And that's why I encourage you to wait until you see the reviews so that you can get a little better idea. For example, in Ashes of the Benchmark, they show the i9-9900K being 50% faster than the Ryzen 7 2700X. Now I have no doubts that the i9-9900K is faster than the Ryzen 7 2700X, just based on previous examples of Intel chips in that game, but that kind of disparity is a head scratcher. Now if you read into it and you see the configuration, it makes sense. See, the 9900K has XMP enabled, running at the CPU's rated memory configuration with no multi-core enhancement. And well, that seems good, right? Then we look at the Ryzen configuration. No XMP. Well, that makes sense, but they did at least set it to the rated speed. However, you're still unknown about the timing, so they're probably really loose. But wait, they used Ryzen Master to enable game mode? WTF on that one. See, game mode was developed for Threadripper to reduce latency by reducing core count and basically shutting off one of the dies, leaving it back to a single CCX cluster. Now doing this on Ryzen mainstream cuts the core down to half. Yeah, okay, let's do that to compare. Especially in a situation that is heavily dependent on the number of cores. At this point, this video's gone on long enough. We're editing together the presentation so that you can see them for yourself in the coming days in a more digestible manner. But at this point, we'd love to hear your take on the new Z390 and the new 9th generation chips from Intel. And if you'd like to, let us know what you think about that testing. Kind of cringy. So this has been Keith with WCCF Tech TV. Make sure that you're subscribed and hit the notification bell so that we don't miss you in the next one.